All right. It's happy Tuesday, everyone. This is Greg Dixon here with the Note Center and Maurice Thomas Junior. And we're continuing with our discussion about the summer school, Note Summer School for real estate investors. Today's topic is due diligence for note investing. I'm going to say the idea of due diligence probably is a life lesson that probably should be applied to everything you do. Uh, but anyway, let's talk about what do you have to say here, and I'll put you've got a presentation.
Yes. I have a presentation here, Greg,
Yeah,
for the visual learners. Um, but yeah, y'all, good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys are staying cool out there with the heat waves that's going across the country. Greg, how's it in Canada? Is it
it's
warm?
getting hot.
Ah, okay,
It,
okay.
it's it's been parts of Canada are on fire again, and and it's been extremely hot where we're at. Even though it's semi-desert, it's been uncharacteristically cool and has showers. But we're getting there. We're catching up.
Mm, mm,
Okay.
mm. All right. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Mortgage Note Summer School series. I am Maurice Junior. I am a part-time vegetarian. I am a shared living and group home owner, and of course, I invest in mortgage notes here. So, what we're going to do today is we're just going to cover some basic due diligence as it relates to making sure that you are well informed before you actually make that deal or you actually turn in that collateral file and move forward with the note here. So we are going to do a quick recap here. All right. So, a mortgage note, by definition, is a promissory note secured by a mortgage note or a deed in trust on a property. We learned that in our first series there, our first online series. We learned about that. The role of why everybody's excited about mortgage note investing is because investors purchase mortgage notes to earn the interest income. There's going to be two types of notes floating around. You do have other notes as it relates to partials and different things of that nature, but more specific, we are looking at performing and non-performing notes. Again, this mortgage note summer school series is for individuals who are new to the space and are pretty much on a learning curve and just learning the mortgage note investing jargon, or individuals who are maybe a year or 3 years into their investing and looking to diversify their portfolio. So just throwing it out there for the type of audience that this is designated for. So again, you have your two types of notes, which is going to be your performing and your non-performing notes. The life of a note. This here is a very good illustration that was created by Larry Hoffman of LJH Investments there. I really like the life of a note. As you can see, if you follow the green line that's performing, you're either going to get paid off, meaning the person take it to the term of the loan, you get paid off, or the person actually refinances. In a case that is non-performing, you actually follow the red arrows there. Um, we actually have three exit strategies associated, primarily three exit strategies associated with it's not performing. You're going to have a short sale, going to have a foreclosure, deed in lieu, depending on the state. And then you actually have your loan modification, which is actually going to help the loan to get back to reperforming there. And no, I kind of touched on that as well. So go back and review that one if you need some more details on that pathway. Some of the key players in the market that we touched on, which include our mortgage note, brokers, our government entities, your hedge funds and private equity funds, your private investors, individuals who actually have funds. So I group those into the private investors themselves. And then you also have your banks and your financial institutions for key players in the market. Some of the online places that I said that you can source on our last episode, episode 3, which is going to be like your paper stack, your note traders, loan MLS. You can find some on there. Um, some of the benefits is that you actually have a wide variety of notes associated with those platforms. It's convenient. You can use it on your mobile device, your computer. It's just ease of use associated with those platforms, and then you're able to look at multiple notes and look at the prices, right then and there. Not saying that you can't, look at it, for other platforms as well, but most of the time you're going to be looking at some kind of Excel spreadsheet, some kind of spreadsheet where you're looking at multiple, um, notes at a time there. But the most important piece is the platforms are there to connect the sellers and the buyers. Your mortgage note brokers, your note brokers, or your private investors. I think the most important piece here, just doing a recap about this one, is you actually have access to those off market deals. While you are doing business with the individual, you are gaining, you know, insight, or what I like to say, experience in the space now that you are working with an experienced investor. And the longer that you work with that individual, the more rapport that you're going to build, the trust and different things of that nature, who's going to be one of your individuals that you're contact as it relates to building your team. And that would be something that I touch on later on here as it relates to due diligence and actually having accurate team around you as well. Um, you can actually buy directly from hedge funds or the actual banks. Now, this is something that I touched on before. This is something where your fund, you will actually have to have a relationship with those individuals, and then two, your fund. Those are it's pretty it's a pretty good penny to actually buy directly from the hedge funds or the banks themselves. So you have to have a pretty good fund to kind of source those kind of deals. Now, today's topic: due diligence in the mortgage note investing space. Okay, so as you can see, I actually have um, a formal definition on the screen there as it relates to what due diligence is in general. But the most important piece is what you want to remember is due diligence is pretty much just a comprehensive appraisal of asset. Um, you're evaluating that asset to make sure that you are reducing your risk, um, and you can make a formed decision as it relates to that particular asset. All right. Um, Again, today we will cover, why due diligence matters. We will dive into some of the key factors to evaluate and some of the tools to actually the tools and resources available to actually do and perform, due diligence. But the most important piece is as it relates to your mortgage note investing, due diligence, centered around mortgage note investing is, you're doing a comprehensive appraisal of that asset. You just critically evaluating the potential risks, and then you actually looking at the upside as well. You're looking for the benefits of that investment. All right. If you are, just taking your time, bending corners, and you're not very sophisticated in your due diligence process, what can happen is, of course, you will actually have financial loss. You can actually have, legal issues. And of course, your portfolio will be impacted because, something that's supposed to be a good performing asset, or a good investment overall, is actually impacting you as relates to financial loss. But one of the biggest pieces, when you're not doing due diligence as like how you supposed to, it can impact your fund overall, especially when you're raising capital and different things of that nature, and you are guaranteeing those returns, quarterly or annually, whatever it may be, and you actually shortcut or you kind of bend in corners on your due diligence process, it can cause financial loss, legal complications, and again, it's just a poor investment, as it relates to the returns. Now, some of the key factors in due diligence is, um, you want to pay attention to service and records here. I'm just making sure my slides are moving. Um, you want to pay attention to, these seven. It's more, but you primarily want to pay attention to these seven types of key factors in due diligence. All right. One of the first ones is going to be like your service and records. Okay. You want to make sure that you review the records of the loan servicing company for accuracy, and making sure that it's compliant with regulations. I know you like, well, I don't, I'm not an expert in this or different things of that nature, but you can, if you get used to it, reading those documents, it's going to be something that helps you because your servicing company may not catch it. You may, I'm not going to put out some names or anything of that nature, but the point is, your servicing company is not going to catch that, as it relates to um, the accuracy or the compliance with regulation. Excuse me. They will make sure that you are compliant. But the most important piece is when it comes to reviewing the files or anything of that nature, you are the one that needs to make sure that you review the records for accuracy. When it comes to servicing the records there. Payment history. You want to make sure that you examine the payment history of the note to identify any past delinquencies or loan modifications. That's important when it comes to loan modifications of the payment history. I showed you that model before as it relates to those loan modifications. What that, lets me know is that that person recently just went through a loan modification and they probably fell behind or fell on hard times. So I want to make sure that in the future, I'm looking at the borrower's credit worthiness. I'm looking at their credit score, their income, their repayment history to gauge their ability to repay the loan if it happens or it comes up again. I'm also looking at the property value. You want to make sure that you evaluate the current market of the value of the property that secures the note to make sure that you're not upside down. Okay, and pretty much what I mean from this, just to throw you an example, is let's say that you have a home that's worth $120,000. However, $250,000 is owned on it. So I'm not sure if that will be a good note to invest in. However, you may think that might be a good note because you might not be thinking of the exit strategy or different things of that nature. So I just throw that out there. I know that was a random example, but I just want to throw that out there when it becomes, you want to make sure that the current market value of that house is secured by that note at that price point. It'll be something called like a BPO, a broker price opinion, where you get evaluations on a property. But maybe we'll cover that later on, some of the acronyms associated with that. Now, loan terms, you want to make sure that you are within the terms of the loan. You want to make sure that you look at the interest rate, the payment schedules, the maturity dates, basically to understand the investment structure. Okay. That kind of goes back to the property value. You want to make sure that those two go hand in hand when you're looking at what what asset the asset that you're looking to acquire. You want to make sure that all the ducks are in a row as it relates to the lien position as well. All right. um Pretty much what I mean by the lien position, you want to determine the lien position to understand the priority of your claim against the property in case of default. So you may have notes out there where you're able to purchase. If you go to paperstack.com or something of that nature, you may go on there and see a note that's in the second lien position and is non-performing, and you might see it at a good price point, anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. Typically, you'll find those notes in that range. The upside is there. However, you're in the second position as it relates to a claim to the property. And I could touch on that later on as it relates to the lien position. I'm not sure if I touched on the title search, but this is mission critical. You want to conduct thorough title search to ensure there is no outstanding liens or legal issues that could affect your ownership. Now, pretty much what I'm alluding to here in this case is, let's say let's say you have a house that actually has some back debt associated with the taxes. That itself can actually, have a lien against the house. I have seen cases where you review collateral files and the water departments then had a lien on the property as well. They won't turn on the house, turn on the water without, that water bill being paid, depending on where you're at in the country. Different things of that nature as it relates to the title and the lien position, as it relates to any outstanding claims against the property. Of course, the payment history, I think I touched on it already. But you want to make sure and identify the payment history of the note to identify any past delinquencies or loan modifications associated with that deal there. Now, some of the tools and resources out there that exist when it comes to, let me see here. Yeah. When it comes to your tools and resources for effective due diligence, remember we're just doing this at a high level. It's not something where you're going to become an expert here, but I just want to give you an idea just in case you come across a deal and someone punch you over they might punch you a collateral file and say, hey, you have 7 to 10 business days or 7 to 14 days, um, to kind of review this collateral file, and you conduct your, due diligence overall. So here's what I would say. Um, some of the tools and resources that you want to leverage, you want to make sure that you're leveraging the credit reports. Of course, you can always leverage your credit report to utilize those different agencies out there to obtain the borrower's credit information as it relates to like TransUnion, Equifax, what else out there? TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Those are your three major bureaus. Of course, there's others out there that you can look at as it relates to like LexisNexis and credit. Is different other agencies out there that you can actually obtain a detailed credit report about the borrower. You also want to look for or use resources based on the property appraisal services. I kind of touched on it earlier as it relates to a broker price opinion, a BPO. You want to hire professional appraisers to get accurate assessment of the property's market value. Now, ideally, you may send three people out there. Okay, you may get three different people to go out there, and of course, you're going to get three different quotes. But you're able to take the median of that. You're able to look at all threes, able to look at all three of those and be able to, pretty much come up with a good market value, based on, their findings of the property. Because they're not walking in the inside, they're pretty much just scanning the outside, looking at 3 to 5 properties that may have been sold in the last 90 days or so, different things of that nature. But title companies, that's something else that you want to make sure that you are leveraging within your network. You want to make sure that you work with title companies to perform, the comprehensive title searches and to uncover any potential issues. I think that's mission critical because what's going to happen is they're able to find like any gaps. They're able to find um, gaps, and when I say gaps, meaning with the recordings and different things of that nature. That we'll touch on that later on here, but you want to work with reputable title companies to perform, those comprehensive title searches to uncover any potential issues. For your loan servicing platforms, you can use these to detail the payment histories and servicing records itself. Um, Different loan servicing companies give you access to their um, most of the time you purchase an asset, you may keep it on board with that servicing company, but most of the time people actually have a preference of who they're actually working with. And maybe I'll get a list out there as it relates to the different type of companies out there and how long they've been around because um you have some very let's see. What come to mind is Bag, but I cannot think of his first name. But the Baldwin Advisory Group, he actually, does the BPOs where his company does the BPOs. They actually do the title searches. They actually do the, origination, for the seller financial, for you may want to originate a loan. He can actually help you with that. He can help you with the assignments and the recordings. He can help you with the collateral review overall as it relates to, the servicing, skip tracing, all type of things as it relates to that specific, individual out there. He's the first person that comes to mind and only person that I know of that can can do all these things plus more here. But the last thing I would say is your legal advisors. You want to make sure that you are consulting with, legal professionals that can review your loan documents and identify any potential legal concerns. So that is going to be your um, your tools and resources to actually effectively do due diligence overall. Now, some of the best practices, okay? Some of the best practices associated with due diligence is always be thorough with your research. All right, always be thorough with your research. I don't know today. My Gatorade is hot. My Gatorade is not working. I don't know if you can tell, but it is hot. Um, but yeah, so some of the best practices as relates to thorough due diligence is, you want to do thorough research. All right, you always want to conduct, again, a comprehensive research on every aspect of that actual mortgage note. You also want to seek professional assistance. You want to make sure that you are, looking for individuals to have on your team, or individuals, network with, the note brokers or the private investors. As I said before, you actually want to look and see who they use, for their appraisers, for their attorneys and their financial advisors when needed. And again, you want to continually learn. All right, this is something that you have to stay up to date on market trends, regulations, best practice in the mortgage note space. You always have to continue to learn this. Again, this information is for someone who is new to the space, or someone who is, been investing for anywhere from 12 months to 36 months, and you're looking to park your money in a different vehicle as it relates to the note space. The last thing here, and I'll close with this, is, you want to keep a detailed record of all your due diligence activities, um, in your findings, as it relates to your, for your reference and for you staying compliant. All right. Because last thing you want to do is, like, here in the state of Georgia, we actually have a rule as it relates to, you can actually hold four notes in your personal, name. Anything after four notes, you actually need, different certifications and different things of that nature, as it relates to, a business entity holding the additional notes and different things of that nature. So structure is everything here in Georgia. But the most important piece is, like I said, you want to make sure that you have your documentation. You want to make sure that you're keeping it, especially if you house it in your home. You want to make sure that you have a fireproof safe where you actually have these assets put up and put away, just in case something, comes up of that nature. Um, some of the key points that we kind of touched on here is the importance of due diligence in the mortgage note investing space. Um, the most important piece there is no shortcuts. No shortcuts in due diligence, okay? Because what's going to happen is, if you have a fund, you're actually going to have poor returns. That's going to, hinder you from actually securing, or, um, making sure that you hit those margins associated with your fund, as it relates to the promises that you actually pay out, to, your individuals in your fund. Some of the key factors, like I said, the key factors and the tools, the Baldwin Advisory Group, you refer to as BAG, those individuals, particularly him. Greg, do you happen to know Mr. Baldwin's first name? You know what? I just
No.
thought about something. I know that Larry is doing a workshop with, with Mr. Baldwin coming up here in August. Also, I see
Okay.
him
Yeah.
around here. So, what I'll do is I'll table his name and his contact information. But again, you want to make sure that you are leveraging the tools and resources from, the Baldwin Advisory Group, as it relates to, the BPOs, the broker price opinions, the title searches, the appraisals, the servicing. He can connect you to those individuals, because he has been in the space for, I think, over 25 years or so. But outside of that, the two main things that you want to pay attention to, anytime that you are doing your due diligence, you want to make sure that you are looking at the value and the condition of the property. That, coupled with any tax liens or anything associated with the property, that's going to be the most important piece. And then, of course, your title searches and different things of that nature. However, that is all that I have for today. I went over additional five, like 5 to 7 minutes here, but I want to keep them under 15 minutes here. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to myself or Greg. You can always visit the notes with a S center, .com, or you can actually go and visit tiglegacy.com. I actually have my calendar there, so you can always book some time and secure some time on a calendar there. And then, if you just want to say, "Hey, Maurice, what are you doing with your group homes or your shared living spaces?"
Yeah.
I'm available for those conversations as well. But I'm gonna put it back over to you, Greg.
No, that's awesome. That's great information. We had Lori, I think maybe you know who she is. She sort of said here, said waiting for this good information. It's really good. I think you and I need to put together a due diligence checklist that we can share with people sometime soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's some very good due diligent Excel workbooks out there that
Yeah,
people that you can purchase and different things of that nature have access to. That's kind of around like the financial calculator. I think that'll be tough to teach. The
yeah, that's
financial
tough to teach,
calculator.
but a checklist we can create.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, well, this has been great. And what's the next thing coming up? Just preview on Thursday. What are we going to be talking about?
The valuation of mortgage notes, like how to value performing and non-performing notes, the
Okay.
factors affecting the note of value, and the
Yeah.
tools and method for those evaluations there. So we will definitely kick that off this coming Thursday here.
Awesome. Okay. Looking forward to it. So anyway, happy Tuesday or whatever day we are. So, and, and
Thank
thanks
you.
thanks for I know Alden was in the audience too, so we got our usual fans.
Absolutely. I appreciate the support, Alden.